The night shimmered with quiet wealth and invisible loneliness, the kind that hid behind polished glass doors and softly glowing chandeliers, as a billionaire woman stepped into a fine restaurant holding her young son's hand, unaware that before dessert arrived, her life, and someone else's, would be changed forever. If stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected humanity move you, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who believes goodness still exists, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because this story begins not with riches, but with a heart that still ached despite having everything. Her name was Eleanor Whitmore, a woman whose name appeared on magazine covers and business journals, often described as powerful, brilliant, untouchable. She had built an empire from nothing, survived betrayals sharper than knives, and buried the man she once thought she would grow old with. That night, she wore a simple dark coat instead of designer glamour, because her son Lucas mattered more than appearances. Lucas was 8 years old, thoughtful beyond his age, carrying the quiet weight of a childhood shaped by loss and privilege in equal measure. Eleanor had promised him a special dinner, just the two of them, because she knew that even billions could not replace presence. As they walked through the restaurant, the soft murmur of conversations and clinking glasses wrapped around them, and Eleanor felt that familiar emptiness she carried everywhere, an echo of success without warmth. They were seated near a large window overlooking the city, its lights flickering like distant stars. Lucas studied the menu carefully, his small fingers tracing words he barely understood, while Eleanor watched him with a mix of pride and regret. She wondered how many moments she had missed chasing deals across continents, how many bedtime stories were replaced by assistants and nannies. She told herself she was making a better future for him, yet nights like this reminded her that the present mattered just as much. As food was being prepared, Eleanor's attention drifted across the room, a habit she had developed from years of reading people rather than numbers, and that was when she noticed them. At a small table near the back sat a man and a little boy, their presence almost invisible compared to the polished elegance around them. The man's jacket was worn at the cuffs, his shoulders slightly hunched, not from weakness but from years of carrying more than his share. The boy across from him looked no older than 6, his feet swinging nervously above the floor, his eyes wide with wonder at everything around him. There was a carefulness in the way the man handled the menu, a hesitation that spoke of prices calculated silently in his mind. Eleanor recognized that look instantly, because she had once lived it herself, back when every dollar meant survival. The man's name was Daniel Harper, though Eleanor did not know it yet. He was a single father who worked 2 jobs, one during the day unloading trucks and another at night cleaning office buildings, doing everything possible to give his son Noah a life that felt normal. That dinner was not about luxury for Daniel, it was about keeping a promise. Noah's birthday had come and gone with a small cake and a single candle in their apartment, and Daniel had promised that one day soon, they would go somewhere special, somewhere with tablecloths and candles, where Noah could feel like other kids he saw on television. Daniel had saved for months, skipping meals, walking instead of taking buses, all to afford this one night. Eleanor watched as Daniel leaned forward, explaining something to Noah with a gentle seriousness, likely reminding him to choose carefully, to not order too much. Noah nodded eagerly, his excitement dimmed just slightly by understanding he should be careful. That small exchange struck Eleanor harder than any boardroom loss ever had. She felt something tighten in her chest as she saw herself reflected not in the billionaire she had become, but in the struggling young woman she once was, raising herself through hardship, dreaming of stability. Lucas followed her gaze and noticed them too, sensing his mother's sudden stillness. As their meals arrived, the contrast became sharper. Eleanor and Lucas were served effortlessly, while Daniel thanked the server with an almost apologetic smile. Noah's eyes lit up when his plate was set down, the simple joy of food in a beautiful place overwhelming him. Daniel watched his son eat before touching his own meal, his face softening with relief and quiet happiness. Eleanor felt tears threaten at the edges of her composure, something she rarely allowed. She told herself she was just tired, that emotions had no place here, yet she could not look away. Midway through the meal, something happened that revealed everything. Noah accidentally knocked over his glass, water spilling across the table and dripping onto the floor. The sound was small, but Daniel froze, panic flashing across his face as he scrambled to clean the mess, his movements quick and embarrassed. He glanced around, expecting irritation or judgment. The server reassured him gently, but the shame lingered, heavy and familiar. Noah shrank into his chair, his joy replaced by fear that he had ruined the night. Eleanor felt a breaking point inside her, a memory of her own childhood mistakes punished by circumstances rather than compassion. She saw not carelessness, but a child learning, and a father doing his best under invisible pressure. Without fully deciding, she stood up, smoothing her coat, and walked toward their table. The restaurant seemed to quiet around her, though that may have been only in her mind. Daniel looked up, startled, clearly recognizing her from magazines, his face draining of color as he wondered what he had done wrong. Eleanor placed a gentle hand on the edge of their table, her voice calm and steady as she reassured him, not as a billionaire, but as a mother. She told him that accidents happen, that Noah had done nothing wrong, and that he was doing an incredible job as a father. Those words landed on Daniel like something unreal, something he had not heard in years. Noah looked up at her with wide eyes, unsure but hopeful, as Eleanor smiled warmly at him and told him that birthdays were meant to be celebrated without fear. What Eleanor did next was the unbelievable part, though to her it felt like the most natural decision she had made in years. She quietly told the server to add Daniel and Noah's entire meal to her bill, along with dessert, and asked that it be done discreetly. But she did not stop there. She sat down briefly, ignoring the invisible line between their worlds, and asked Daniel about Noah, about school, about his dreams. Daniel spoke cautiously at first, then more freely, sharing how Noah loved drawing and wanted to become an architect, how he built imaginary cities out of cardboard boxes in their small apartment. Eleanor listened deeply, something she rarely had time to do, and she saw not a charity case, but potential, dignity, and love. She shared, in return, that she had grown up with very little, that success did not erase the scars of struggle, and that she believed kindness mattered more than numbers on a screen. Lucas watched the exchange silently, absorbing a lesson no elite school could ever teach him. He saw his mother not as a powerful figure feared by many, but as a human being choosing compassion. When dessert arrived, a small cake with a single candle was placed in front of Noah, compliments of the restaurant at Eleanor's request. Noah's face glowed brighter than the flame itself, and Daniel's eyes filled with tears he tried desperately to hide. That night, Eleanor did more than pay for a meal. She gave Daniel her contact information, not as a grand promise, but as an open door. She later connected him with a friend who ran a logistics company, helping Daniel secure stable work with fair hours. She arranged for Noah to attend a creative program that nurtured his love for building and design, quietly covering the costs without strings attached. As weeks turned into months, their lives changed in ways none of them could have predicted. Daniel no longer lived in constant fear of bills crushing him. Noah flourished, his confidence growing as his dreams felt possible. Eleanor found herself lighter, her success finally aligned with her values. Lucas began asking questions about helping others, about fairness, about what it meant to truly be rich. That single dinner rippled outward, touching more lives than anyone in that restaurant would ever know. Years later, Eleanor would often think back to that night, to the spilled glass of water and the moment she chose empathy over indifference. She realized that wealth had given her comfort, but compassion had given her purpose. And Daniel would tell Noah, now older and still dreaming big, that the world could be kind when people chose to see each other. If this story stirred something inside you, if it reminded you that one small act can change everything, please take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more stories that celebrate humanity. And before this story ends, we ask you from the heart to comment below and tell us what this moment meant to you, because your words might inspire someone else who feels unseen tonight. The truth is, miracles do not always arrive with flashing lights or grand speeches. Sometimes, they walk quietly across a restaurant floor, sit beside a stranger, and remind us that kindness is the most powerful wealth of all.